Hello, how are you? My name is Naomi Judge. I'm a naturopath and clinical nutritionist, and I help women connect the dots between their health, happiness, and hormones. And I particularly specialize in supporting women with PMDD, severe PMS, and cyclic mood symptoms. And today I'm talking about how trauma can keep you stuck in this groundhog loop of that cyclic feeling better, and then suddenly you get to your luteal phase and bam, you're back to square one. So you just feel like it's one step forward, two steps back, one step forward, two steps back, with work, with social, with your relationships, with the house, with any things that you've got to do, projects. So I'm going to talk a little bit today about trauma and how you can support yourself. And one of the things that I've also launched is my Calm Cycle Circle. My Calm Cycle Circle is a virtual meetup for like-minded women. I'm going to be guiding you, and it's happening once a month. And I'm going to be guiding you over the next 12 months through a journey of supporting yourself through your monthly cycle, giving you insights to how to support yourself through somatic healing, nutrition, supporting trauma in your nervous system. So you can sign up if that sounds like something you would be interested in. Trauma can be anything from daily traumas that you go through, such as food intolerances, heavy metals, low nutrition. It could be anxieties that you have about driving, certain things that you've got, just those daily traumas. Noise can be a trauma, so it could be daily traumas. There's also past trauma and PTSD, something that's occurred that you've actually never healed from. There could be a generational imprint, so this is where it all gets a little bit complex and a little bit kooky. So you could have this kind of generational imprint of trauma. It's stored in our DNA, and it can be given down for generations, and maybe it's gone through your grandmother, your mum, and you, and it's something that you're not quite sure what the trigger is, but it's there. And then it can actually be severe events, like an event like a burglary, a car crash, an operation, that type of thing. So these traumas can get stored in your body, and if you don't properly go through the process of trauma and heal from trauma, when you go into the trauma, your body goes into fight flight, and what you would expect is you would expect yourself to heal from that. But what tends to happen is, if we don't give our bodies and the nervous systems a chance to heal, they can stay stuck in this kind of traumatic response. Then comes your cycle, then comes the luteal phase, and bam, it's really magnified during that time in your cycle. So the first thing that can happen when we have this stored trauma is we've got this freeze stage. This freeze stage is where your body is trying to protect itself. It's trying to protect itself from pain. It's trying to conserve energy. And this freeze state, you might feel pain. There might be a numbness. You might have chronic issues. These are the people that say, I learned this recently from the wonderful Amy Epigan, but these in somatic healing, they talk a lot about these people that say, I can't feel my legs. This is this kind of chronic freeze state that a lot of people are just drifting through life. They're going through the motions in a daze. They feel lost. Maybe they're obedient, they're not questioning things, and just kind of going through in this freeze state. This is somebody that's never actually dealt with a trauma. They've never gone through the process of healing, and so this trauma has left them in a freeze state, and it's dumped all of this trauma into the DNA. So this is a big problem for a lot of people, but particularly for women who have these cyclic issues of PMDD and PMS and severe mood cycles, because as your hormones fluctuate and change and your neurotransmitters fluctuate and change, that luteal phase, it's more exacerbated. So you might go more into a chronic anxiety state. You might actually go more into a freeze state and just want to lock yourself away at home. When you're in a freeze state, your cortisol is really low, so you might feel extremely fatigued. You might have cold hands and feet. Your immune system might get, you might get more coughs and colds during that time in your cycle. You won't feel like doing anything. You might just want to lie in bed and sleep if you can. But this is that chronic freeze state. Chronic freeze state also, you might find in work and in projects that you come to your luteal phase And this is when you're procrastinating. This is when you hit a wall. You don't have any more thoughts on what you can do. You don't feel like doing anything. You don't feel like exercise. You don't feel like cleaning. You don't feel like self-care. You just don't feel like anything. And this is this chronic state happening through your cycle. You know, generally your body should come out of this freeze state after a traumatic event. We look at creatures in the wild. You know, when a mouse is being hunted by a cat, I've seen this many times, I don't know if you've seen it, when a mouse is being hunted by a cat, the mouse will just play dead and freeze, and then the cat will do this and try and play with it and think this is a bit boring, the mouse isn't moving, and the mouse is just, you think it's dead. And even if you touch it, its heartbeat's lower, it feels kind of cooler, and it's still, and even you think it's dead. Then you give it a few minutes and it gets the shakes, and then it's up and it's gone. So it's gone through that chronic freeze. The shakes are this kind of way out of the chronic freeze, fight, flight, then it's off. So it's gone through these states, and then once it's fight, flight, off, it will go into parasympathetic rest and digest. So it's gone through that whole process. This trauma response won't affect that mouse. It won't keep coming back to it. But with humans, we don't go through this shaking. We don't go through this repair. We take on this trauma into our cells, and this is where it can impact our cyclic moods, particularly PMDD, depression, low moods, fatigue. It can have a real impact on us. When we're in our parasympathetic mood state, and I want you to think back of when you are in your parasympathetic state. Parasympathetic is rest and digest. Parasympathetic is where we absorb nutrients, our digestion works. Our blood is circulating as it should all the way around the body, moving nutrients all the way around the body. We feel calm, we feel present, we feel grounded, secure and connected. These are all the beautiful things we feel in this parasympathetic. It's a wonderful state. Do you remember when you were in this state? Because thinking back and journaling help yourself and help your nervous system get back into the parasympathetic state. A lot of women are in the fight, flight, sympathetic, high energy state in the luteal phase. This sympathetic state, this fight, flight, can lead to insomnia. You feel like you're on the hamster wheel. You're hypervigilant. There's an anxiety. You feel like there's a threat. You feel tense in the muscles. Your progesterone might be lower when it should be higher. You might have lower serotonin when it should be higher. Your neurotransmitters is imbalanced. Your hormones might be imbalanced. This leads to all sorts of things. Binge eating. It can lead to issues conceiving. It can lead to more pain, just this heightened awareness, digestive problems, reflux, bloating, pain in the digestive system, constipation, headaches, all of these issues with this hypervigilance and this sympathetic nervous system. This sympathetic nervous system and this fight-flight, the body is in survival mode as well. You'll have more of a rapid heartbeat. You might be sweating, you might have clammy hands and feet, you might feel hot all the time, you might have wet patches under your armpits. You know, it's this kind of like heightenedness, these heightened symptoms in our body will just feel on edge. That's your sympathetic state. And the sympathetic state is where a lot of women are staying in their luteal phase. This is when the cortisol is higher. This is when the adrenaline is higher. When the cortisol is higher, this puts our blood glucose out as well. So the body is continually kind of getting glucose from stores, bringing it into the body, sending it out to the body. We've got too much glucose, so that's leading to more food cravings. That's leading to maybe stubborn weight, maybe bloating, acne, and issues with testosterone. So it's this vicious cycle when we haven't dealt with trauma. So either you're in the freeze state, which means you're just gliding through, you're just protecting yourself, you're not making lots of meaningful relationships, you're just getting through life. Or either you're in the sympathetic. The sympathetic is where you're on the hamster wheel and you're anxious. And the luteal phase, you really feel it. You feel the anxiety as opposed to the fatigue in your luteal phase. Or it's not affecting you and you're still in your parasympathetic most of the time. But if you're dealing with this unresolved trauma, you will definitely feel you're in the freeze or the sympathetic. So what to do about it? There's lots of things you can do. Definitely talk therapy, seeing a therapist, supporting yourself with magnesium, all of these lovely nervous system supports. So magnesium is a wonderful way to support your nervous system. You know, taking about 250 to 500 milligrams aminochelate a couple of times a day, 3 times a day through your luteal phase is very, very efficient. Epsom salt bath, which is magnesium sulfate, just to give those muscles some ease, to give those muscles a rest. That's a wonderful way to nourish your nervous system. And in your luteal phase, you want to be very careful about what you're eating. You don't want to be eating any foods that are going to be triggering your nervous system. So that might be sugar. For some, it might be allergens like dairy, eggs, wheat, and soy. Alcohol is definitely a no-no because that triggers your nervous system. So in your luteal phase, you want to be off alcohol and you want to be reducing caffeine, particularly caffeine, no more than 1 cup of coffee or green tea a day. You also want to make sure that you're not doing any diets that are going to be triggering your nervous system and your adrenaline. So you don't want to be doing fasting or the ketogenic diet during your luteal phase. Studies show that carbohydrates and starches support the nervous system. So you want to be having breakfast by about 8 a.m. And then when it comes to exercise, no intense exercise or HIIT training during your luteal phase if you're particularly anxious. This is if you're overly anxious. What you want to do is you want to be doing nourishing exercise like yoga, walking, yin yoga, swimming, Pilates is okay, anything that's just slow and gradual. And you don't want to be pushing yourself too much, you know, long runs or long walks. You need to be resting during your luteal phase if you feel like you're suffering from sympathetic or freeze state. If you're in the sympathetic state, you might actually be wanting to do more. Do this, but really you should be conserving more. Conserve your energy. And lastly is a somatic healing part of this whole thing. Somatic healing is extremely powerful, and somatic healing is what I'm going to be going into in my Calm Cycle virtual meetup, which will be a once a month meetup virtually for like-minded women suffering from PMDD, suffering from mood disorders during their cycle. And it's going to be somatic work to support you having a calm cycle. But definitely the first thing you can do with a somatic work is what they like to call grounding. And it's just making sure when you're sitting, when you're somewhere, making sure that your body feels safe and you're grounded. So surveying around you, making sure, giving your nervous system those cues that you are safe, that you feel safe. Grounding your feet on the floor, putting your hands somewhere that feels nice. For me, I love holding my arms here. You might like holding your neck. The nape of the neck here is a gorgeous sort of nervous system resetter. Sometimes under the armpits is nice. I learned this from my somatic training with Amy Appigan. Under the armpits is beautiful, but just feel grounded. Your feet on the floor, your hands, maybe a backrest when you're sitting. So this is a wonderful way to tell your nervous system you're safe. Also, what do you smell? What do you see? What's visual? It's all these cues. You want to give your nervous system safety cues. And the first thing I would recommend that you start doing, and I'm going to talk about this in my Calm Cycle Circle, is journaling about your nervous system. When do you recognize your nervous system start to go into sympathetic, which is fight flight? When do you feel, and what does it feel like when you're in freeze? And finally, what does it feel like to be in rest and digest for you with parasympathetic? What makes you know that you feel relaxed? What is your body doing? What are the sensations in your stomach? Is it gurgling? Are you tired? Are you yawning? Do you feel a relaxation on the skin? How do you feel when you're in parasympathetic nervous system? That's a really important question, because when you know what it feels like, it's easier to get in. And some people are never in it at all. So the first thing you can do is just start journaling. Just start journaling how you feel and how you know you're in parasympathetic, sympathetic, and freeze state. So this is how trauma can keep you stuck. Either you're in freeze state, or you're in sympathetic state, or you're going between the both. but this is how trauma can keep you stuck and how it can exacerbate during your luteal phase in the cycle. I hope you found that helpful today. I'd love to hear from you, and don't forget to sign up to my wonderful Calm Cycle Circle. It's a free virtual meetup, and it's going to be happening every month on Zoom, so I look forward to having you there. Take care. Bye bye.